What is up, guys? Coming to you from majestic Detroit, Michigan, here for the weekend working, and thought I'd do a video. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about passion. Passion is it's very important to me. It should be important to you as well because it's really what gets you through the hard times. It's what gets you fired up to start new projects and new adventures and things like that. Whatever your passion is, it's always good to know what your passion is and know what you'd like to do. As you could tell from my last video, my passion is cars. Really, really dig cars, and it started at a pretty young age. When looking at what motivates me and what drives me, I think about where I'm at now, and I think about where I've been. I think it's very, very important to understand why you are who you are and kind of where you came from. And in terms of passion, that starts off with my first car. So I want to do a little video about my first car, and it was a doozy. Beautiful car, beautiful. It's a work of art. Being in the Motor City, down the street from the Ford headquarters, I thought it was a perfect time to tell you about it. My first car was a Chevy. Yeah, screw you, Ford. My Chevy, 91 Chevy Corsica, 3.1 liter V6. Great car. Oh my God, this thing was bulletproof. I paid $250 for this car. I was 18 years old, right around that range, and had a full-time job. I was going to high school, paying a bunch of bills, and $250 is what I could afford. It just so happened that my best friend at the time was moving, actually. So his parents were selling his car. And they said, "Oh yeah, you're obviously a friend of the family. We know your situation here. $250 is yours." I'm like, "Okay." And I had spent hours in this car because we used to rally down roads in this car, and I had seen how he drove it. I kind of knew what I was getting into, but anyway, it was my first car. So at the time, it was a pretty rough place in my life. Like I said, I was in high school. I was in foster care, had, 30, I was working about 30 hours a week plus playing sports, etc. So I really needed a car to get around in. And I was so pumped to get this car and finally have something that I didn't have to have my friends drive me around. So I buy this car and instantly I want to start doing stuff to it. I'm an exhaust guy. I didn't really know it then, but I love exhausts. I love loud exhaust, rumbling cars. And I didn't have any money, but I did have a hacksaw. So my first mod to my first car was I cut the exhaust off of the car. Yep, hacksaw, about 30 minutes. Got that bad boy out of there, to where it was just a pipe left that was basically, it's like 3 feet long off the header, and it was sticking out my driver's side door pretty much. That thing was awesome. Went straight to AutoZone, bought one of those chrome exhaust tips for like $15 and stuck it on there. Whenever I'd hit a bump, the exhaust tip would just fall off and roll down the road. I ran over that exhaust piece like 30 times or something like that. But I loved that car. I loved spending time in it. I won my first drag race in that car. I took it rallying down dirt roads. We lived in a mountain ski resort town, and so I would take it through the snow. And I never put tires on it. There's like metal cords sticking out of it, which I think doubled as snow tires, snow studs for me. I don't know, but I do know that my buddy Otto had a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and he thought he was hot stuff. And it was lifted. It was actually really, really nice Jeep, leather interior, big 15-inch sub or something like that in the back. He got stuck in the snow. And who did he call? This guy hooked a tow rope up to his Jeep and towed his Jeep out in a 91 Chevy Corsica. I went through hell in that car. I also had a ton of great times in it. Drag racing, canyon runs. We used to, I wanted to do my first burnout. And so to do a burnout in that car, it was an automatic and it was front wheel drive. But I'm like, I really want to do a burnout. So what did I do? I discovered a thing called neutral dropping, which is really, really great for your car, by the way. It's not. But what you do is you put the car in neutral, for those of you who don't know. You put the car in neutral, you rev up your motor, so you blah, 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 with a car with no exhaust on it, and then slam it into drive, and you go. So I did this, slammed it into drive, and went, and then it started going. I'm like, oh my God, I did a burnout! I was so pumped. I was excited. Had a ton of fun in that car. Embarrassed many girlfriends in that car. They were not happy to be seen in that pile of junk, but it was awesome. The ignition didn't work on it. The keys, you could just take the keys out when the car was running. I decided to try to impress my prom date one year. I was like, hey, look at what I could do. I'm driving along. I'm driving down Main Street. I got my tux on. She's in this piece of shit Chevy Corsica in this like beautiful dress and shit like that. I'm rolling down the street. So I take the key out of it while driving down the street. I'm like, oh, hey, look, I'm so cool. And she's like, cool. That's awesome. And while I'm driving down the street, I'm trying to steer, and my steering wheel locks, because that's what happens when you take the keys out of your car and you move your steering wheel, right? So it locks. And so we're starting to like drift over into oncoming traffic. She's like, is that supposed to happen? I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's part of the trick. Isn't that awesome? I'm shoving the keys back in the ignition. It was nuts. It was crazy. But I truly love that car. That car had a very special place in my heart. My first mods were done to it. The first parts I ever bought for a car were for that. Bought an electric supercharger off eBay. It didn't work, surprisingly enough. It did not work at all. But it ended up, I used the conch shell of it as part of a cold air intake system. I just stuck it on the throttle body and then got some other weird piping and stuck a filter on the end of it. I did everything wrong on that car. The lights on the inside of it, the dash cluster lights went out. So what I did is I again went back to AutoZone. They had a lot of business from me back then. And I got the neon rope lights and I shoved it up into the dash bezel. And so I had green glowing light at night. I did a lot of stuff to that car. It was a ton of fun. It was a learning experience. I have a very special place in my heart for that car. That car was very, very much like me at the time. It was loud. It was obnoxious. Wasn't real pretty to look at. But it was a lot tougher than you would give it credit for just by looking at it. 91 Chevy Corsica. That's what started it all. That was the beginning of a lifelong obsession and passion, was that hacksaw and that exhaust system on that car. But hey, you got to start somewhere. So that's a little bit about my first car. I'll probably be doing a few more videos on my other cars and that. Keep following along. Thanks for listening, and keep driving.